Hey there, English learners! Welcome back to the English Chat Lab, your go-to place for improving your English while diving into real-life topics that actually matter.
That's right. I'm Max.
And I'm Lena. Today, we're talking about something that's a part of everyone's life: grocery shopping.
The weekly or maybe daily adventure of navigating aisles, comparing prices, and trying to remember what you actually need. It can feel overwhelming, especially if you're still getting comfortable with English.
Exactly. But here's the good news. Grocery shopping doesn't have to be stressful. With a few tips and tricks, you can make it easy, efficient, and maybe even a little fun.
That's right. Whether you're new to grocery shopping or just looking to improve your skills, today's episode is packed with practical advice. We'll cover everything from reading labels and comparing prices to asking for help in stores.
Yes, and we'll also share some common grocery items and phrases you'll need, like "where can I find?" or "how much does this cost?" So, by the end of this episode, you'll feel confident and ready to tackle your next shopping trip.
Absolutely. And before we dive in, let's start with a quick question for everyone listening. Think about your last grocery shopping experience. Did you feel prepared, or did you end up wandering the aisles, unsure of what to buy or where to find it?
Or maybe you struggled to understand the labels or compare prices. Whatever your experience, don't worry, we've all been there. And today, we're going to break it all down so you can shop like a pro.
All right, let's get into it. First up, we're diving into how to read labels like a pro. Stay tuned.
We're diving into Chapter 1, Introduction to Grocery Shopping. Max, let's start with the basics. Why is grocery shopping such an essential life skill?
Great question, Lena. Grocery shopping is something we all have to do, whether we love it or hate it. It's not just about buying food, it's about making choices that affect your health, your budget, and even your time management.
Yes, and for English learners, it's also a fantastic opportunity to practice real-life language skills. You're reading labels, asking questions, and interacting with store staff all in English. It's like a mini language immersion experience.
Exactly, but I know grocery shopping can feel overwhelming, especially if you're in a new country or still getting comfortable with the language. That's why we're breaking it down step by step in this episode.
Yes, here's what we'll cover. First, we'll talk about how to read labels so you can make healthier and more informed choices. Then, we'll share tips for comparing prices and finding the best deals.
We'll also cover how to navigate the store and ask for help when you can't find something. And of course, we'll go over some common grocery items and phrases you'll need, like "where can I find the milk?" or "is this on sale?"
Yes, and to make it even easier, we'll introduce some common grocery store vocabulary along the way. Words like aisle, checkout, organic, and discount will become part of your everyday shopping vocabulary.
That's right, and by the end of this episode, you'll feel confident and prepared for your next grocery trip. Whether you're shopping for yourself, your family, or just picking up a few essentials, these tips will make the process smoother and less stressful.
Yes, and here's a little sneak peek. In the next chapter, we'll dive into how to read labels like a pro. You'll learn how to decode nutrition labels, understand terms like organic and gluten-free, and make healthier choices while shopping.
I'm excited for that one, but before we move on, let's do a quick introduction to some common grocery store vocabulary. These are words you'll hear and use every time you shop, so let's get familiar with them.
First up, aisle. This is the space between shelves where you walk to find products. For example, the cereal is in aisle 5.
Next, checkout. This is where you pay for your items. You might hear, "please proceed to the checkout."
Then there's organic. This refers to food grown without synthetic pesticides or fertilizers. You might see signs like organic produce or organic milk.
And finally, discount. This means a reduction in price, like a sale or special offer. For example, this item is on discount today.
These are just a few examples, but don't worry, we'll go over more vocabulary as we move through the episode. The goal is to help you feel comfortable and confident while shopping.
Well said. So, to wrap up Chapter 1, here's the big takeaway. Grocery shopping is an essential life skill, and with a little practice, it can become easy and even enjoyable. We're here to guide you every step of the way.
Yes, and remember, the more you practice, the more confident you'll become. So, grab your shopping list and get ready to learn. Up next, we're diving into how to read labels like a pro. Stay tuned. We're moving on to Chapter 2, how to read labels like a pro. Max, this is such an important topic because understanding what's in your food can help you make healthier choices and avoid ingredients you might want to avoid.
Absolutely, Lena, food labels can be confusing, but once you know what to look for, they're like a cheat sheet for making better decisions, so let's break it down step by step.
Yes, let's start with the nutrition label. This is usually on the back or side of the package and gives you details about what's inside. The first thing to look at is calories. This tells you how much energy you'll get from one serving of the food.
Right, but here's the key: pay attention to the serving size. Sometimes a package might look like it's one serving, but it's actually 2 or 3. So if you eat the whole thing, you're getting double or triple the calories.
Yes, that's such an important tip. Next, look at the ingredients list. Ingredients are listed in order of quantity, so the first ingredient is what the product contains the most of. If sugar or unhealthy fats are at the top, you might want to think twice.
Exactly, and don't forget to check for allergens. If you have food allergies, this is super important. Common allergens like nuts, dairy, and gluten are usually listed in bold or at the end of the ingredients list.
Yes, and speaking of gluten, let's talk about some common food packaging terms you'll see, like organic, gluten-free, and low-fat. Max, what does organic mean?
Great question. Organic means the food was grown or produced without synthetic pesticides, fertilizers, or genetically modified organisms (GMOs). It's often seen as a healthier and more environmentally friendly option.
Yes, and gluten-free means the product doesn't contain gluten, which is a protein found in wheat, barley, and rye. This is important for people with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity.
And then there's low fat. This means the product has less fat than the regular version. But be careful, sometimes low-fat products have added sugar to make up for the flavor, so always check the label.
Yes, that's such a good point. Just because something is labeled low-fat or gluten-free doesn't automatically make it healthy. You still need to read the full label to make sure it fits your dietary needs.
Exactly, and here's a pro tip. Look for short ingredient lists with words you can actually pronounce. The fewer the ingredients, the less processed the food usually is.
Yes, and try to avoid products with a lot of added sugars, sodium, or artificial ingredients. These can be hidden in things like sauces, cereals, and even bread.
That's so true, and if you're ever unsure, don't be afraid to take your time in the store. Reading labels might feel slow at first, but it gets easier with practice.
Yes, and here's another tip. Plan ahead. If you know what you're looking for before you go shopping, you can focus on finding the healthiest options without feeling overwhelmed.
Well said. So, to wrap up Chapter 2, here's the big takeaway. Reading labels is a skill that can help you make healthier choices and avoid ingredients you don't want. Focus on calories, serving size, ingredients, and allergens, and don't be fooled by terms like organic or low-fat without checking the full label.
Yes, and remember, it's all about balance. You don't have to be perfect, just mindful. The more you practice, the easier it will become.
Up next, we're diving into comparing prices and finding discounts. We'll share tips for getting the best deals and stretching your budget. Stay tuned.
We're moving on to Chapter 3, comparing prices and finding discounts. Max, this is such an important topic because, let's face it, grocery shopping can get expensive. But with a few smart strategies, you can save money without sacrificing quality.
Absolutely, Lena, and the good news is, you don't have to be a math whiz or a coupon queen to save money. It's all about knowing what to look for and making small changes to your shopping habits.
Yes, let's start with comparing prices per unit. This is one of the easiest ways to save money, but a lot of people don't realize it. Max, can you explain what price per unit means?
Of course, the price per unit tells you how much an item costs per ounce, liter, pound, or another unit of measurement. It's usually listed in small print on the price tag right next to the total price.
Yes, and this is super helpful because it lets you compare different sizes and brands to see which one is actually the better deal. Sometimes the bigger package isn't cheaper, and sometimes the store brand is a better value than the name brand.
Exactly, so always check the price per unit, especially for items you buy regularly like cereal, pasta, or laundry detergent. Over time, those savings really add up.
Yes, and speaking of savings, let's talk about spotting sales, discounts, and coupons. Max, what are your tips for finding the best deals?
First, keep an eye out for weekly sales flyers. Most grocery stores have them, either in print or online. They'll show you what's on sale that week, so you can plan your shopping list around those items.
Yes, and don't forget to check for digital coupons. Many stores have apps where you can clip coupons or load them onto your loyalty card. It's an easy way to save money without carrying around paper coupons.
Exactly, and here's another tip: shop the perimeter of the store first. That's where you'll find fresh produce, meat, and dairy, the essentials. Then go into the aisles for the rest of your list. This helps you focus on what you really need and avoid impulse buys.
Yes, and if you're really looking to save, consider store brands. Max, what are the benefits of store brands versus name brands?
Great question. Store brands are often just as good as name brands, but they're usually much cheaper. They're made by the same manufacturers as the name brands, just with different packaging.
Yes, and store brands are a great way to save money on staples like rice, pasta, canned goods, and even cleaning products. You might be surprised at how much you can save by switching to store brands for some items.
Exactly, and here's a pro tip: compare the ingredients. Sometimes store brands have the exact same ingredients as name brands, but at a fraction of the cost.
Yes, and don't be afraid to try store brands for things like spices, baking supplies, or even snacks. You might find a new favorite and save money in the process.
Well said. So, to wrap up Chapter 3, here's the big takeaway. Comparing prices per unit, using coupons, and choosing store brands are simple ways to save money on groceries. With a little planning and attention, you can stretch your budget without sacrificing quality.
Yes, and remember, saving money doesn't have to be complicated. Small changes can make a big difference over time.
Up next, we're diving into navigating the grocery store. We'll share tips for finding items quickly and understanding store layouts. Stay tuned.
We're moving on to Chapter 4, Navigating the Grocery Store. Max, this is such an important topic because, let's be honest, walking into a grocery store can feel overwhelming, especially if you're not familiar with the layout.
Absolutely, Lena, but once you understand how most grocery stores are organized, it becomes so much easier to find what you need and avoid wandering aimlessly through the aisles.
Yes, so let's start with common grocery store layouts. Most stores are divided into sections like produce, dairy, meat, and frozen foods. Max, can you walk us through the typical layout?
Of course, let's start with the produce section. This is usually near the entrance and has fresh fruits and vegetables. It's a great place to start your shopping because these items are often the foundation of healthy meals.
Yes, and next, you'll usually find the dairy section, which has milk, cheese, yogurt, and eggs. This is often located along one of the side walls of the store.
Exactly. Then there's the meat and seafood section, which is also usually along the walls. Here, you'll find fresh chicken, beef, fish, and other proteins.
Yes, and in the center of the store, you'll find the aisles. These are where most of the packaged and canned goods are located, like cereal, pasta, snacks, and baking supplies.
Right, and don't forget the frozen foods section, which is usually at the back of the store. This is where you'll find frozen fruits, vegetables, meals, and ice cream.
Yes, And finally, there's the checkout area, where you pay for your items. Some stores also have a bakery and deli section near the front, where you can get fresh bread, pastries, and prepared foods.
Exactly. Understanding this basic layout can save you so much time and stress. And here's a pro tip: look for store maps or signage. Many stores have signs hanging from the ceiling that tell you what's in each aisle, like cereal or canned goods.
Yes, and if you're ever unsure where something is, don't be afraid to ask a store employee. A simple question like, "Where can I find the peanut butter?" can save you a lot of time.
That's such a good point. And speaking of vocabulary, let's go over some key words you'll need when navigating the store. First, aisle. This is the space between shelves where you walk to find products. For example, the cereal is in aisle 5.
Yes, and checkout is where you pay for your items. You might hear, "Please proceed to the checkout."
Then there's organic, which refers to food grown without synthetic pesticides or fertilizers. You might see signs like organic produce or organic milk.
And finally, discount, which means a reduction in price, like a sale or special offer. For example, this item is on discount today.
Yes, these are just a few examples, but they're essential for navigating the store and understanding what's around you.
Yes, and here's another tip: shop with a list. Knowing what you need before you go into the store helps you stay focused and avoid wandering aimlessly.
Exactly, and if you're shopping at a new store, take a few minutes to walk around and get familiar with the layout. It'll make your next trip much easier.
Well said. So, to wrap up Chapter 4, here's the big takeaway. Understanding the layout of a grocery store and using signage to your advantage can save you time and stress. And don't forget to use key vocabulary like aisle, checkout, organic, and discount to navigate with confidence.
Yes, and remember, if you're ever unsure where something is, just ask. Store employees are there to help.
Up next, we're diving into asking for help in stores. We'll share useful phrases and tips for getting the assistance you need. Stay tuned.